If the Sun Devils are going to hire a general manager, then they should definitely call one of their quarterbacks, but not that one.
You are Locked On Sun Devils, your daily podcast on the Arizona State Sun Devils. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome back to the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. I am your guide, Richie Bradshaw, for everything Arizona State Sun Devils, from the gridiron to the hardwood and everything in between. Today's episode is brought to you by Amazon Fire TV Stick 4K. Turn any TV into your Xbox. No console needed. Head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to learn more. On today's agenda, I'm going to introduce you to the perfect quarterback, former quarterback, I should say, to be the Sun Devils general manager, because general managers are all the rage right now. But if it's not that one, well, could ASU look at some other notable alumni to be their GM? And what is the GM even going to do for Arizona State? All of that is coming up on today's show. You want to know who the perfect candidate is for the Sun Devils to be their general manager? It's a former quarterback. It's one of the best quarterbacks in program history. But it's not the one you think, because I know you're thinking, you're like, oh, Jake Plummer. It makes a lot of sense. You know, Jake has all of the medicinal mushrooms and the marijuana and the CBD oil and stuff like that he promotes, and he's a businessman and blah, 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 blah. Well, don't worry, we'll talk about him later. But that's not the quarterback I was thinking of. You know who I was thinking of? Andrew Walter. Now, for some of the younger Sun Devil fans who may not know who Andrew Walter is, and honestly, I'm not overly familiar with him either in terms of playing on the field. He played in the early 2000s for the Sun Devils, 2001 to 2004. He played 4 seasons for Arizona State. He was the starter for 3 seasons. He walks away as ASU's all-time leading passer in yards and touchdowns. 10,617 passing yards, 85 touchdowns. Both of those lead program history for Arizona State. He led them to an 8-win season and a 9-win season in 2022 and in 2024. We're not 2020, in 2002 and 2004. Man, that's just weird to think that was over 20 years ago. But yeah, that's kind of where we're at. But Andrew Walter is one of the quarterbacks that really does not get talked about enough when you talk about the greatest quarterbacks in Arizona State Sun Devil football history. Like, you're like, oh, Jake Plummer and Danny White and Taylor Kelly. But no one really talks about Andrew Walter, not nearly as much as they should. And he is a legend to this program for all of the good that he left behind. And when he left the program to go to the pros, he led the Pac-10, not the Pac-12, the Pac-10 all time in passing yards and touchdowns. He was the leader. I don't know if that has been broken since. That would not surprise me, considering all the guys who have come through. But when he left, that's what he did. So since then, he has done all sorts of stuff. One of the more interesting ones was he has a very small background in politics. You can take that for what it's worth, but he ran for a House seat in 2014 on the Republican side. He did not get it. I was not able to find anything that he has tried to do since, but just for what it's worth, it's interesting that he dipped his toe into the political realm of stuff. But here's what really gets my attention. And this is why I would tell you that Andrew Walter is the perfect candidate to be a general manager for the Sun Devils. He earned his MBA as a businessman through the WP Carey School of Business for Arizona State. For what you're wondering, he's really good at business. He went through an entire school for it. You talk about the art of the trade, and Andrew Walter understands that. And this is where I would tell you he becomes one of the best, if not the perfect candidate for the team. So we can get that part out of the way. He knows how to manage money. He knows how to manage businesses. And he's been in the football realm long enough to have a good understanding of what it looks like to do anything like that. Now, don't get me wrong. I'm not sitting here and I'm telling you like he's an NFL GM or anything like that. And honestly, even a college football GM looks very different from an NFL GM. And there's very different responsibilities that he's going to have to learn to handle and whatnot. But at least from a fiscal financial side of things, you know that you're going to be taken care of there. You also know that, again, just the art of the trade, he's going to understand how to get things to run the way that Arizona State needs them to run. There could be an opportunity for him to reach out to the Valley, you know, the one that we've been trying to activate the last few years, and get those donors and those investors to go all in on this program. There's a chance that he is able to get the NIL stirred up again. He can help plan all sorts of things. And I mean, he is a Valley legend, so he knows what it's like in Tempe, Arizona, and all of the surrounding regions. He knows what it's like out here, which makes him someone that is very intriguing for me to look into and go, yeah, I would really like him to be one of our top options to become our general manager. And there's a lot of decent options for ASU when I was doing my homework personally. And by the end of the show, I would like you to leave a comment on who you think would be a good general manager. I'll pose that to you now. So by the end, you will hopefully have someone that you can leave a comment for. But I look at Andrew Walter and I look at his background from an educational standpoint, and I go, yep, that looks good to me. I like it. And then I look at his background from what he did for Arizona State, and it's like, yep, that checks too. And that is important, because if you're trying to recruit a kid to come to Arizona State University, one of the best things that ASU could do, if they went this route, if they went the route of taking a former player, an alumni of the program, if that's the direction you went, then you want someone who really has a lot of cachet with the program. And Andrew Walter has about as much cachet as you're going to find with anyone. I mean, all-time leader in passing yards and touchdowns. He had 2 winning seasons, and I know that doesn't sound great, but I mean, ASU's been really up and down. He's one of the best quarterbacks in Sun Devil history. I'd put him on the Mount Rushmore. Him, Danny White, probably Jeff Van Raphorst, and I would throw Taylor Kelly on there just because I'm very biased. Mark Malone would get some conversation, but that's neither here nor there. The point I'm trying to make, if you are going to have your general manager be an alumni, specifically from the football team, then you want someone who made a significant impact on the football team. Like, if Richie Bradshaw played for Sun Devils football, I didn't. I had arthritis in my knee when I was 23 years old. So that tells me I probably would have got it a lot sooner if I had tried to suit up. But if Richie Bradshaw plays Sun Devil football, but he never gets on the field, and I would have been the best bench warmer out there, then that doesn't mean as much for young man John Doe in the 2030 recruiting cycle. He's not going to be as interested. He's like, I don't know, Richie Bradshaw, I don't even know who that is. But Andrew Walter walks up to you. Now, at first you may be like, who's Andrew Walter? Because that's going to be a lot of fans that aren't ASU diehards. But then they look into it, they're like, who's Andrew Walter? And they go, oh, wow, that's ASU's all-time passing leader? Okay. Yeah, no, that's someone who stands out from the program. They brought him back. He came back to the program, and now he's recruiting the program that he dominated at. The program that Andrew Walter etched his name into the history of the program with is now helping run the program. And a very big role that he's inheriting too. That really helps with recruiting. And recruiting is a huge, huge aspect of what I need to see from my general managers. So that's something really, really noteworthy for ASU that, to me, has Andrew Walter as my perfect candidate. Let me know what you guys think in the comments about Andrew Walter being my preferred candidate. Don't worry, though. There's way more than just one option to be a general manager, and there's way more than one quarterback from ASU history to be that general manager. Coming up next is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Did you know your Fire TV is also an Xbox? You can turn any TV into your gaming and entertainment hub with Fire TV Stick 4K devices, no console required. Just grab your paired controller, subscribe, or sign in to your Xbox Game Pass Ultimate with EA Play included, and you're ready to play. You can dive into hundreds of premium titles, from your EA Sports College Football 25 game to your Call of Duty Black Ops 6 and all sorts of other stuff. Easily stream your favorite shows too. It's gaming made simple, and it's all on your Fire TV. If you are streaming with 4K, it's perfect. You can watch more than 1.5 million movies and TV episodes from your favorite subscribed service devices. Maybe that's Netflix, Prime Video, Disney Plus, Max, all of it you can get right on there. If you're a big time gamer, again, how easy is it that you can just use the TV to play your Xbox? That's pretty nice. I feel like that's about as convenient as it's going to get. So head to Amazon.com/Fire TV Locked On to get started. Xbox Game Pass Ultimate subscription and compatible controller is required. Available on all select devices, including Fire TV Stick 4K second generation, Fire TV Stick 4K Max first and second generation, and Fire TV Cube third generation. Thanks, as always, for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. Richie, who else would be a really good candidate to be the general manager for the Sun Devils? You know, I'm glad you asked, because Andrew Walter may be my preferred option, but he is far from my only option. He's far from my only quarterback that I would give a shout to and say, hey, would you be interested in helping run the program, helping us get to that next level? These guys go, heck yeah, I would. Yeah, I love Arizona State Sun Devils. I bleed for Arizona State University, maroon and gold. Yeah, I think a lot of these guys would be willing to take that call. I have 5 guys in particular that I'm taking a look at. 2 of them are quarterbacks. One of them is one of the highest rated recruits ever. One of them's a former coach. And then kind of an honorable mention, even more than a dice roll, but hear me out. Let's go ahead and start with Jake Plummer, because come on, how can I not talk about Jake Plummer for the general manager position for Arizona State Sun Devils football? Yeah, of course, Jake Plummer is included in that category. How can he not be? Jake Plummer might be the Arizona State Sun Devil. He might be the face of the program in the entirety of its history. You have a serious argument. Again, if you were to make a Mount Rushmore for ASU quarterbacks, he's on there. If you made a Mount Rushmore for ASU football, he's on there. If you made a Mount Rushmore for ASU athletics, everything, golf, basketball, women's basketball, football, baseball, softball, all of it, Jake Plummer might be one of those 4. He is synonymous with the program. So yeah, when Jake Plummer is running the program as the general manager, that gets people's attention. Now, it's really important that you also are able to do the functions of a general manager, because if you can't, then, you know, just be a spokesperson, be one of the bigger donors, be someone that goes to a lot of the games, and someone that just invests a lot of their time. Like Jake Plummer was on the sidelines for a lot of games this year. That gets kids' attention. That's phenomenal. But if he is up to the task, then, you give him a call. And he is a businessman. We talked earlier about his familiarity with promoting stuff and setting up foundations and all sorts of good stuff. And he's got his medical mushrooms and CBD oils and medical marijuana and all that stuff. I'm not saying bring that to ASU, but I am saying that he is familiar with building, growing, starting businesses. And that's, a role that you need to be a very good, very successful general manager, for what it's worth. Jake Plummer would be an awesome addition to be the Sun Devils general manager. But again, these are not easy roles to walk into, which is why these are all kind of in theory. Here's another one for you. Another quarterback, Brock Osweiler. Yep, Brock Osweiler. And here's my reason. When I'm looking through these candidates, I'm not just looking for big names. Spoiler alert, Will Sutton's not on here. Vontaze Burfict isn't on here. Terrell Suggs isn't on here. Jalen Strong isn't on here. Like, it's not just about being a big, recognizable football player for the program. It's also about being someone that would be able to inherit the roles and responsibilities that you are assigning that person to that position. So Brock Osweiler, why would I do it with them? Well, he's got an ambassador role with a prescription company, I believe, something like that. But that's an important thing to have experience with. It's another facet being able to work with business, and that's something that caught my attention with the vast majority of the guys that I'm bringing up. So yeah, that was something that was really intriguing to me about Brock Osweiler. But I mean, you're also looking for someone that represents the face of the program. And Osweiler only started 1 year at ASU, but he set the single season record for passing yards for the team. And he is still a fan favorite. Like, if you were to go up to Sun Devil fans, longtime Sun Devil fans, hey, who's your 5 favorite quarterbacks? I promise Brock Osweiler would be included in there. If you go up to some ASU fans who were born in the early to mid 2000s and watched football their whole life, hey, who's your favorite ASU quarterback? Brock Osweiler would be one of those top options. You find someone that attended the school in the 2010s, even with 1 season of Osweiler, he was one of their favorite players. He also went on to play in the NFL and won a Super Bowl with the Broncos, for what it's worth. So there's cachet here with Brock Osweiler to be that general manager. Here's another really good option. And if I didn't have Andrew Walter as my top option, I would have tight end Zach Miller as my top option. I feel like that's going to throw a lot of people off. But again, there's a background to support being able to take on a role like that. He has a Bachelor of Science in Financial Planning. He is a certified financial planner. He has all sorts of accolades that turn him into someone that's like, yeah, he could definitely run a business. Art of the trade, right? Zach Miller would be able to handle all of that stuff behind the scenes. And again, face of a franchise, face of a program, excuse me. No, he wasn't this elite player for ASU, but he was a very early draft pick. I think he was first round and Todd Heap was early second. I might have that backwards. But Zach Miller, definitely someone that's got a little bit of cachet with the team. He's the second highest rated recruit in program history, only behind Vontaze Burfict. He was a very good football player for ASU. He went on to play, I think, 8 seasons in the NFL, might have been 9 seasons. He won a Super Bowl with the Seahawks. There is stuff here to pitch to these kids about Zach Miller. Like, hey, he's a businessman, but he was very successful at ASU. Sell the program. One coach that's really interesting to me, and what's so funny is this coach really has a lot of love for ASU, even though they had to part ways, and that's Todd Graham. Todd Graham really loves the program. And for someone who has had coaching opportunities after he left Arizona State and coached a long time at other programs before ASU, he loves Arizona State University. He has said nothing but glowing things about the university and the football program since he left, since he was fired. He would be someone that I would be interested in. Now, does he have a business background? Not that I know of, but he has a coaching background and an extensive coaching background. That gets kids' attention. You know what else? He is a great recruiter. He knows how to talk to these kids. He brought in a lot of very good football players when he was the head coach of Arizona State University. That matters because that's another huge role for a general manager. Like everything that I've talked about so far, these guys have business degrees, they have backgrounds with starting stuff, with promoting stuff, blah, 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 blah. That's a huge aspect of it. You know what else they got to be able to do is recruit. That is probably the second most important asset here. And we'll talk about the assets coming up next. But that's something that Todd Graham brings more than those other three do. Not because kids don't know who Jake Plummer is or Brock Osweiler or Zach Miller, but because Todd Graham literally was recruiting for a living. Last guy I want to mention, I wouldn't even call this a shot in the dark. I am taking my dart and I'm just throwing it up in the air as high as I can and curious where it lands. Could DJ Foster find his way into this role? I know, absolutely crazy. There's like no background that I'm aware of that would support that. And he's got a coaching role with the team right now. And he's a really young player. He's not even in his 30s yet. But could he inherit that role? I don't know. But it is an interesting thought, at least for me. Talk about a guy who activates Valley. That is a Valley legend. Not even just like an Arizona State legend. Like he's one of the best high school football players in the last like 20 years in the state of Arizona. He was very, very good at what he did. So cachet with that, especially hometown recruiting. ASU wants to keep the kids at home. They want to activate the Valley. They want to make sure that the 5 stars and the 4 stars aren't leaving the state or going down south, God forbid. Get yourself someone that is intimately familiar with the Valley, what it takes to recruit these kids, and boom. Sounds pretty good to me. What is the role of a general manager? Or at least what do I need them to do when they take the role on for Arizona State? That's coming up next. This is the Locked On Sun Devils podcast, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. Let me talk to you about our friends over at Monarch Money now. If you ever check your bank account and wonder, where did my money go? I get it. Between online shopping, going out, entertainment, all that good stuff, it's easy to lose track. And that's where Monarch Money comes in. It's your personal CFO. It's going to give you full visibility and full control over your finances. Monarch Money isn't just a budgeting app. It's a complete financial command center. You can track all your accounts, investments, and spending in one place. So stop just managing your money and start building your wealth. I took a look at Monarch Money for myself. I realized, my goodness, I use a lot of money on food delivery. You know, maybe I could start packing stuff from home and that would help me out. But when I realized how much I was spending on it, now it was kind of like we should start budgeting and be a little bit smarter about it. And that's because Monarch Money was able to show me how much I was spending on that. Take control of your finances with Monarch Money. Use code LOCKEDONCollege at monarchmoney.com for 50% off your first order. That's monarchmoney.com, code LOCKEDONCollege for half off your first year. Thank you all so much for tuning into Locked On Sun Devils to make us your first listen of the day. Shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. What would a GM do for the Sun Devils if they hired one? First of all, yes, you should hire one. You should 100% absolutely slam dunk, no doubt, hire a general manager. That's the move that everyone is going with right now, and for a very good reason. And we're going to really see how important it is to have a general manager running your football program. Like in 5 years, that will end up turning into like that premium hiring position. Like, oh no, ASU's looking for a new head coach, blah, 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 blah. But it's like, oh no, ASU's looking for a new general manager. That's going to have the same kind of weight. It's going to be that important of a position that you need to fill on your staff. I truly believe that, especially with NIL turning into the dog that it has become. You need someone who understands that stuff, who can manage that stuff. And that's the whole role of a general manager. So that's something that ASU needs to realize. And honestly, that's where we'll start. What would a general manager do for ASU? They would be able to help ASU with budgeting. They would be able to help ASU with collecting NIL. They would be able to help the roster management when it comes to assigning NIL, right? Hey, we want 5-star kid to come here. We got to give him $2 million. Okay, well now I gotta find a way to allocate the rest of my NIL for some of my other players who also deserve to get paid. You can have that kind of help through a general manager. It goes with the budgeting too. How am I going to be able to make $10 million work with 105 football players? Find a way. Here's a really interesting thing. Something that I want to see ASU take a ton of advantage on. And I think that they've done a pretty good job. And I think the players especially have done a good job with this. And that's finding ways to create promotions for yourself and promotions for the program. There's a lot of guys who are doing things off the field. CJ Fight is doing all sorts of donations for some of his teachers back in Tatum, Texas for Teacher Appreciation Week. Miles Ghost Rouser just held a football camp for a bunch of youth kids and everything. Cam Scadaboo has done all sorts of different events to do meet and greets and stuff like that. So there's a lot that the football players have been able to do to help promote themselves. And NIL opportunities have helped too. But you bring in a general manager who can now help schedule some of that stuff and plan around and all that juicy stuff that Kenny Dillingham may not have time for. Like, Kenny's got a lot on his plate. I don't know if it's the easiest or the fairest thing in the world to say, hey, you need to organize some kind of luncheon for players to sit down and meet fans and have signing sessions and stuff like that. Hey, you need to set up a youth football camp for the kids to come and play with some of the bigger names. Like, kids want to play and catch footballs from Sam Levitt. They want to run routes with Jordan Tyson and stuff like that. Being able to plan out those public events, it's going to be that much easier with a person that is specifically going to be doing that in their job description, general manager. And of course, the biggest part of all of this is NIL, right? Being able to take care of the NIL. Massive. One more thing I want to mention, though, as we start to wrap this up. ASU is doing a good job recruiting, doing an exceptional job recruiting. Top 15 class in the country right now. They are trending towards several other players, too. The class is only going to get better. ASU doing an awesome job recruiting. Kenny Dillingham working his you-know-what off. Jason Mons, one of the best recruiters I can remember in a long time. Brian Carrington and Hines Ward and, oh my goodness, I can't think about it. Vince Aney, all sorts of guys that are going out on the road and bringing these guys in and convincing them they want to be Sun Devils for life. That's special stuff, but that's a lot of work and energy. Now imagine a general manager who can help out with that recruiting, help out with the team building aspect. Being able to take a look at this roster and say, I want to start improving here. Let's create a big board kind of situation. And you have someone that can dedicate their time and energy to it instead of burning the candle at both ends of the sticks. And, the coach just got done with private sessions with the kids. And now he's got to catch a plane that's going to Florida in 30 minutes. And he's going to be in Florida for less than 12 hours. And then he's got to fly over to California. that's a lot on these coaches. Don't get me wrong, that doesn't just disappear, because part of your description as a coach in college football is being able to recruit. But you can have someone that is able to really square that stuff away for you when you bring in a general manager. That's something that ASU should have a lot of emphasis on right now, especially with the way that recruiting is trending. You want to keep it going up, then you need to find ways to keep it afloat. This is the next step in that process to make sure that your recruiting stays afloat. So for me, Andrew Walter, that is my perfect option to be the Sun Devils general manager. Who's your guys'? I gave a few names out there. I said Jake Plummer. I said Brock Osweiler. I said Todd Graham. Who's your guys' choice? And as far as responsibilities do, is there something that I forgot that a general manager needs to do for the Sun Devils? Let me know all of that in the comments if you're watching on YouTube. If you're not, you can hit me up on Twitter at RichieBrats36. You can find the podcast at LO_Sun Devils. Wherever you're getting your shows, hit like, hit subscribe, and turn on notifications. You will get an update whenever we post new content. I appreciate each and every single one of you for tuning in to Locked On Sun Devils and make us your first listen of the day. And a shout out to my everydayers who are here every day. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. We are not going anywhere. We have finally upgraded the recording stuff, and no more technical issues, knock on wood. But a lot is coming up for the Sun Devils, lots of recruiting news. We've got a lot of offseason to get through, and I'll help you get through it. So hit that subscribe button. Until next time, you keep it locked right here on Locked On Sun Devils.